Welcome back to Getting Past the Premium, everybody. We're very excited today to get a different perspective from Dave Timms. And Dave is the president of Premier Midwest Beverage. And we're going to get the perspective of a business leader today when it comes to what would a business leader find value in and what do they expect out of an advisor in the risk management industry. So we're really excited to get that perspective from somebody, from one of our clients, and really excited to share this episode with you. Thanks for joining.
Welcome to the Getting Past the Premium podcast.
All right, so here we are.
Yeah, welcome.
Getting Past the Premium podcast. We've got Dave Timms on, as you mentioned, and this is exciting. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Dave and I have gotten to know each other real well over the years, and Premier Midwest Beverage is a great client of Ellerbrock-Norris, and Coors Light is
right.
one of their main brands, and so here we go.
That's what we're got today.
Having one of those, but
and you guys had a heck of a day.
We did. Dave and I got to play a little golf this morning, which was
that
was fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we're excited. Thanks for joining us. I am guest hosting.
Yeah, that's right.
Again, because Ryan Bratz, who knows where he is?
Yeah, we lost him.
We don't try to keep track of him.
On the beach somewhere.
Yeah.
Something tells me he's not doing that. But
yeah, right. But no, thanks for joining us. It's going to be fun. It is, like Elliot said in the intro, it's going to be interesting to get a perspective from a business owner versus, to this point, we've had a lot of actual advisors on, giving their perspective. So it's going to be fun. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're glad to be here. But, first and foremost, as I've known about the Titleist thing, and I had some time to put some thought to it, getting past the premium, right? Probably the scariest thing I've had to deal with in my career in the 5 years and getting to know Ellerbrock and Andy. That's the piece, I think, as a business leader that we're concerned about, because that premium is consistently going up.
Yeah.
But it's also the most comfortable thing you have, knowing here's my monthly annual number, right? So how do you get past that, knowing that next year, no matter how good I do, I'm going to have an increase? And those are the conversations we've had over the last 3 years of how do we get to a level where we can control more of it.
Yeah.
And it's taken 3 years for us to get to this next level of going into self-funded.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of work. It's scary, but at some point you have to take the risk. And we talk about risk reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that on the golf course today.
Yeah.
And it's easier to do on a shot. There's not a lot of money in that, right? But you have to start thinking about that. What's the risk and the reward?
Yeah.
So getting past the premium is really relevant to what you guys are doing. And it's taken me 3 years to kind of get there, but a lot of conversation, a lot of consultation, and a lot of education behind it. So I think your topic and the Titleist thing is very relevant. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you've been in the business world a long time. What do you feel like that's because how our industry approaches the insurance industry, where you just mentioned it took you kind of 3 years to see a different way to operate from an insurance perspective, whether it be health insurance, P&C, doesn't matter. But is that kind of because you didn't know any better at one point? Would that be accurate?
I would say it's because people aren't educated on the platform.
Yeah. Okay.
What can you get to? And it wasn't because we just started talking about it. It's because it's so scary, right? The dollar bills are scary.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because we didn't want to get there before that. It's just you were comfortable. Like, hey, I'm fine paying this monthly annual premium. But when we started this 3 years ago, we knew from that first meeting, this is how we're going to be able to control what we can, right? How are we going to have the best opportunity to control the future?
Yeah.
Because your future, those decisions don't happen immediately. It takes time. Yeah. And to our advantage, we had good partners with Ellerbrock-Norris and Andy that we understood under some good advisory and consultation, which I said from the first point I got into my leadership role, I need a consultant. I don't need a broker. I need a consultant.
I need a salesperson.
Someone who's going to advise me on the best strategies we can implement. But like I said, there's money involved, and that's scary.
Yeah.
So after 3 years of that advisory and consultation, we got to a point that really meant something to us, and we took the plunge. And I would tell everybody they need to do that, but you have to find the right people. And Ellerbrock has been the best fit for us. Figuring out how that is, it's the hard work put into it. That's not one meeting a year. That's a lot of meetings in a year to educate you on that platform and what it's going to take to get there.
Yeah.
And we're in the infancy stage, and it's still a lot of meetings, right? We need to continually get there to control our costs and educate our people. So, no, it's been a great partnership, and those that haven't experienced that, I feel bad for them, but I also say the same thing. I'm like, there's good people out there, and I talk about Ellerbrock all the time. You got to find the right consultant to help you through it. We don't need brokers. Anybody can spend money and take the annual increase all the time.
Right. It's interesting. A word you used 3 or 4 times in that is control, and that's exactly right, because we talk a lot. What Dave's specifically talking about right now that was a major change is on the healthcare side, and we're really excited about what we've got going there. And you're right, there is the control. You guys are able to take more control with the strategies that are in place. But we talk all the time about, in our industry specifically, risk management and insurance industry, people really become victims of an insurance market, right? We can't control whether it's on the healthcare side with the health insurance companies or even on the property casualty side, what those premiums and what the market's going to do. And I think that's a frustrating piece. And I'm turning this a little bit to a question to you is, would you agree that lack of control and kind of that victim feeling in the insurance market is frustrating as a business owner when the dollars are as big as they are?
It's very frustrating, but I think that circles back to the Encore platform too, right? That we talk about. How do we institute things to help control as much as we can and educate our people? There's different things within a regular business that are completely out of control.
Well, so it's interesting. Sorry, it's very interesting you just mentioned that, because a lot of people that watch this are never potentially ever going to be able to take the ultimate control and go to a self-funded model or a captive insurance program, because the dollars aren't enough. They're small business and it's small dollars. But there is control that can be taken. You mentioned Encore. That's obviously something near and dear to us at Ellerbrock, and it's our model. But any advisor that somebody's working with that adheres to that broader kind of holistic risk advisory model, you can still take as much control as is possible in the insurance market when the story you're able to tell the insurance marketplace, those insurance companies, is different. And it's different when you can tell them what you're doing within, if it's Encore with us or if it's whatever program good advisors are working through to help manage risk. That's a very different story. So even though you don't have maybe the same 100% control like you can when you're in a captive or self-funded model, there's at least some form of control. And a lot of people just don't ever experience that, because again, they're going back to what Elliot said, which is it's just a product-driven decision always. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know we've worked hard over the years to really get that broader risk management strategy engaged, and we've seen the rewards from it.
Well, just knowing since I've known you in my 5-year career at this level, it goes beyond that. And our partnership, I'm not sure how long that's been, probably at least 10 years,
Probably
10 years probably.
Almost 10 years.
Just knowing the strategies that were embedded at that point when we engaged you to where we're at now and what we've continually tried to implement have been nothing but good for us. And we've seen those rewards in our renewals from everything from, the P&C to work comp, all that stuff. And now, going into the health platform. So, but I think that speaks words and words beyond what you can express to having a partner in a consultative manner of saying, this is what we need to do. We're going to try and help you along the way. But that takes a lot of time. And I think, from our stance of leadership, there's people that want to give that time, and there's people that don't. They're just kind of find this happy medium of, I'm good where I'm at, right? You find that level, or you find the people who want to dig in deeper and really want to help control more. And that's the one thing I've always looked at is going, how can I help looking further out? Not tomorrow or next year, but 3-5 years down the road. And that takes a lot of effort from your side, from our side, and a lot of education. It's a lot of conversation, because you guys are the experts. We're trying to learn more, and you can say you want to control costs, but it takes a lot of energy. And I'm not sure how much energy leadership has to give, because they'll find this happy medium of saying, I'm good from my time perspective at the dollar bills.
Yeah.
So getting beyond that and pushing them that they can control more and the benefit beyond that, I think is the biggest challenge for you guys. And I've just looked at it from a different perspective, from just a leadership, and I'll be honest, from not an ownership. I want to do everything I can from my perspective to benefit the entire company.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, from your perspective as a business leader, when you think about whether it's P&C insurance, health insurance, just risk management in general, right? When we employ an approach like this, where we're consultative and we're minimizing risk and we're doing things that, ultimately lower the risk profile of the company, number one, to use your word, it maintains control, right? We can control as much as we can of the insurance product. But number two, we're a better business overall, right? I mean, we're lowering what's going to happen in our business that's going to adversely affect operations or the emotional capacity of employees, if we see a bad injury or something. So I'd love your perspective on that, because it's a win-win at the end of the day, but sometimes it's really hard for, I think, salespeople, advisors to see that side of it, that if you go in and you put the time into lowering that risk profile, making it a better business, it also should show up in the next few years long-term when it comes to pricing, right? When it comes to health insurance, P&C, whatever it is.
Yeah, it should. I think when we look at this, you have to look at the company and the culture of the company where they want it from a leadership perspective. And I think as we've looked at the things we've done, I think that reflects in the culture of then we want to trickle all the way down to the employees, right? We want to make it a better place, and we hope they understand that the things we're doing is because of the greater benefit of the entire company.
Yep.
Not necessarily about the dollar bills you're putting in your pocket, but I think the entire overall picture of the company and the culture of it. Does that answer it?
It does, and it's interesting because you said earlier, and I remember you said a time frame, and I don't know what it made me think of. You said something about 3 to 5 years, or pick your number, 5 to 7, whatever it is. We have this conversation a lot when we're talking about risk. We're talking about companies. We're talking about control and the cost, the inflation of costs. And it's like our industry always wants to think in these 1-year cycles, because there's renewals, right? There's renewals to these insurance products. Everybody's thinking these 1-year cycles. And we'll ask the question, how long are you planning on being in business? Are you planning on being in business 1 year? Or is it 10, 15, 20? Are you a legacy company, which I know we hear all the time?
Yes.
And when you think that way, it changes that perspective, because now it becomes around culture. It becomes around truly doing the things we can to long-term control costs. And there's a whole lot more that goes into it. So maybe...
And those strategies are different than short-term strategies.
That was what I was just going to ask, is so when you view that as the president of the company, you look at making decisions for 5 and 10 years very different than when you're looking at making them in 1 year.
It is, and I think our employees look at stuff very short term.
Yeah.
What's a reward right away?
Yeah.
Right? And they can't see the bigger picture. So that becomes a challenge. So in those big ticket items like this, it is, because we're sharing cost of some of that stuff, right, as we go along. But how does that relate to those employees? And in immediate term, because they look annually, if not even monthly, right? How's that return mean something to them? So, it's putting all that together in a synergistic package of, what's a bonus going to look like? What's the benefits going to look like? How's that all flow through? And, to where we're at right now, we continually look at what else can we add. But I think it's flowed through very well as I look at our strategic approach to what we've done to help control costs and help that trickle down through our employees. I'd say it's very difficult from a leadership perspective because employees don't see the big picture looking down the road and how we're trying to control. So it's hard I think from employees' perspective to understand what we're trying to get accomplished. And I don't know the best way to teach that. I really don't, other than embed it into the culture perspective, and really talk to these people and like, this is what we're trying to get to do from every little facet that you try to do, from benefits to company picnic that we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. How do you put something together to keep your people and make them feel good about what's happening? And it all flows through. I mean, because at the end of the day, if the company's not making more money, it trickles down.
Can't provide more jobs.
Absolutely. We can't expand. We can't do all these extra things. So it's very difficult. I will say that. But being educated on it and understanding the little things you can do every day or every week that we can institute to help control our costs and moving forward down the road. We went from a really horrific place in a work comp perspective to sitting really good. And there's things within that you can't control. Mm-hmm. You can't. We can institute our Encore platform that's been super beneficial, but continually doing that, talking about safety and doing things correctly. And in our business, when we're doing everything we do, we're going to every element in a twisting, turning, heavy lifting environment. We've done very well, and it's because we've had good partners educating us and help us institute platforms to keep those people trying to do the right things. And not only that, our supervisors and managers instituting, making sure we're trying to do the right thing as well. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of work and it's a lot of education. Yeah. I'll continually say it.
Well, it's interesting you said, because I know you guys do a good job of this and we're obviously very involved in it, but like for a lot of people watching this, it's one thing in this type of model, it's one thing to educate the executive team, but I think we see a lot of times that it can stop there. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's about the entire culture and all the entire team, every employee there. How well are they getting educated on? These are the things we're doing as a company that are going to make this a better company for you, and here's why, and how that's going to get returned to you over time. Again, that 3 and 5 year, we see a lot of companies fail at taking that beyond the boardroom, for lack of better terms, right? I think Premier has done a really nice job of that, and I think that's a little bit of what you're saying right now too. Is just how do you, whether it's safety, whether it's healthcare, whether it's whatever it is, business continuity strategies, et cetera. So yeah, I think for a lot of people that do watch this, that's something worth, keeping on top of mind is we got that education has to go through and permeate the entire company.
I think a big piece of that is your human resources department. Mm. We've got a great human resource person that institutes to make sure we're following everything down through. When I might be failing at that person keeps us on track, right? And I think that's critical to what you're doing. Someone has to be engaged enough to go, from my perspective, they know what I want to get done, but you also need someone else to keep that thing rolling. And it started before me with my former president. Like, hey, we need to start doing these things. And he did a great job with it. But you need someone's got to be the captain. They have to. They know what I want to get accomplished, but I can't be in every little conversation. Yeah. So I think your human resources really has to help drive that, because they're engaged with a lot of, every person in your company, from leadership to know that, hey, we're going to continually do these things. I've got this scheduled. So I think that's critical.
Yeah, connecting with, we call it the second in commands, is also so important from an advisor perspective, right? Where we oftentimes think we got to be with the C-suite, or the CFO handles the insurance, or so-and-so, but oftentimes sometimes the HR handles benefits or some of those things, but a lot of times we're dealing with the ultimate decision maker, when in reality, the person that is out driving these initiatives, driving the change in a company, is HR, it's operations, it's managers, it's whatever it is. And, I think it's so important to go deep in organizations, because at the end of the day, and I hope people listening are picking up that a lot of the things that we can go in and talk to companies about are very valuable from a leader's perspective. You know, when you think about all the healthcare strategies we talk about, not only is that decreasing cost and helping your bottom line, but it's helping the employee, right? Which is what you're talking about from a culture perspective.
Right.
Like we can impact both. Work comp, we talk about recover at work programs, right? Which is a change to return to work. Yep. But recover at work programs where it's ultimately a benefit to the employee to make sure they get back to work, they're healthy, they're getting paid, and not just sitting at home and getting 66% of wages and whatever it is, you know. Like all of these things can work together. And what I'm hearing from you too is that like that goes beyond just getting past the premium. It goes beyond just reducing that premium, right? It's bigger in a business. And I think that's important to stress. Advisors need to realize that.
Absolutely. No, and I think you hit a big piece is it's not only engaging me, it's engaging the other next level management, whether it's our operations, you know, even below that from our director of operations to that next level. But I think we've done a good job of doing that. I think there's more work to be done. I think we can do even better. I think we're doing a good job, but I think we can do better. We can always do better. But I think that's key is how do we engage all these other people from that next level management?
Yeah.
So
when you think of just transitioning a little bit, when you think of all the advisors you have to Premier, whether that be attorneys, accountants, you know, us, risk management, whatever it is, you know, what do you look for when you're thinking about all the other options you have out there for different advisors? What do you look for when it comes to what brings value to Premier? You know, and again, I'll let you take that wherever you want to, but what are you looking to get out of those advisors and their advice?
Number one, something that's going to be meaningful. I can have meetings every day, all day.
Yeah.
But what I have found, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on the podcast, what I found with Ellerbrock-Norris is that they're the best consultants I have in our business, period. This would even go to my business partners on the supplier side. I always feel like they care 100% and they care about where we're going. And there's always a good judgment call of whether I want to be engaged with that or not, right? And when Andy and I talk, he understands where I want to be, I think. Because there's always going to be some things like, it's just too much, right?
Yep.
But I found such a good, deep relationship in this consultation advisory that is second to none. Absolutely second to none.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
It's been such great partnership since I started this, and it started before that. But we found nothing but a benefit out of this. And, you know, I say that all the time when I speak to you guys, even to others. But it has to be meaningful and heartfelt that we care about your business. And I know this might feel like, I mean, you've even said it. Dave, you have to tell me when you feel like it's the line in the sand. You don't want to go down that road or not. It's too much. And those are the real conversations.
Yeah.
Because totally. I think, I mean, you guys know us as leaders, understand our time's being gobbled up and we have to manage a lot of different things too. How far do you want to go? Because we can take you all the way.
Yeah.
But
we can insure a lot of stuff.
Yeah. How much deeper can you go, and do you want to invest that, you know, that risk rewards there, right? The balance. So it's just how much time do you want to put into it? And I think there's always that little bit more that everybody should probably give to it. And it's really from an educational stance. I don't think everybody truly understands what it's about until you're educated into it.
Yep.
So you've said a term. I mean, thank you for that. That was very nice. I can't. The credit goes both ways though, because you used a term a few times in there as partnership, and I think that's important for everybody that watches this because that's what we've got with you guys, and that's more than Andy or Elliot or Ryan or our team at Ellerbrock.
Big Al.
Or Big Al.
Yeah,
It's more than Dave. It's Corinne, Tanya, Tony. It's the team, all that we've been talking about, that there is the right engagement where it needs to be, when it needs to be, and it's done in a partnership. Everybody realizes, like, look, there's going to be some hard conversations. There's going to be some things we don't like at times. But at the end of the day, we're all in this to make both of our companies better along the way.
Right.
And that gets cool. And that's what so many people in our industry miss that. because they remain the agent or broker that's just slinging that product every year, versus truly becoming that partner that says, look, we're going to have some fun times, we're going to have some tough times, but in the end, we're here to make both of us better.
Amen.
Yeah, so that's kind of...
No, and even, when we went down the health platform side of this thing, and we had a good friend of ours, Andy Neary, come in and kind of talk to us. And when it really hit me on the health platform side was, your insurance card is just a company credit card.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's when the lights came on. I'm like, you were 100% right.
Yeah.
We're just letting them go wherever, whenever, and we can guide them to the best outcomes right at the best price. And that's really where we want to get.
Yep.
We want to offer a great benefit to our people at the best price, at the best outcome.
It's a win-win.
And who doesn't want to do that? When your doctor's just saying, oh, you need an MRI.
Yeah.
There we go. We got it scheduled right away. Well, could that be $1,800 or could that be $500
Exactly.
with the same outcome?
Yep.
So, it was just super enlightening. But those come from the conversations and consultation. And if you don't give that time up to have those conversations, you're never going to know.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is a win-win for the employee too.
Yeah, right. That's
anymore we got $5,000 deductibles and
right.
everything. I mean, most employees don't hit their deductible. So if they have to go get an MRI, it could lead to something bigger, but it may not. And so they're incentivized because they got to pay a deductible to go to the cheaper cost, highest outcome facility as well,
Right.
And so the credit card thing is a great analogy. I love you brought that up because we use it all the time. But, if you're listening out in the healthcare field, it's that insurance ID card is essentially a credit card. If you're going to buy gas is what we always use, you got a $2 per gallon gas station on one side of the street and $5 on the other side, and you got an employee that needs to get gas. Are you going to want them to go to the $5 or are you going to want to go to the $2? Probably the $2. It's gas, right? Same, most likely the same gas, probably from the same supplier. So why would we want them to go to the higher cost gas station, right? It's the same thing in healthcare, which is what you're referring to. So I love that analogy, and I think anybody out there should use that as well because it means so much. And that's what I think we miss a lot of times when we're thinking of going from salespeople to advisors in the risk management industry is we feel like that can be at odds with the client sometimes when you're first making that shift. And what I'm hearing a lot of what you say is it's not at odds at all. It is very much a collaborative approach, and it has to be to work, right? And so I guess I'd just like your thoughts kind of as you look towards the future. You know where Premier wants to go. You guys know where you want to take it, what strategic plans you guys have in place. Where do you view, whether you're talking about us specifically, but just, risk management advisor as a whole, where do you view that in kind of your purview of how does it help me get to my strategic plans, where we want to get to?
Well, it's probably the biggest piece of my puzzle, obviously, because I need to control costs.
Yeah.
But I think, once again, I go back to the partnership, because you guys know it. I'm just living in it. You know how to help me control that, and it's probably one of the bigger pieces of it. Because if we talk about all these in the company credit card and all this, and thinking about how do we get our people back to work, because injuries are going to happen.
Yep.
How do we found that the sooner we can get them back into working in some capacity, so that means the employer has to be flexible.
Yep.
How are you going to
100%.
create something that's going to be light duty or it's going to fit for those people to get back into just having them there every day accomplishing something for the day? It's just
It takes creativity
it
sometimes.
doesn't take, you have to think about it and say, we need to be flexible. It's like, well, this is the only thing we can do. You got to start thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Well, how can we flex, right, to create this? But that's all part of the advisory and the consultative partnership that we have and being better and thinking about the future. Because if you take this path and you go, here's my line in the sand, you know where you're going to be in 5 years. If you can't adapt and change, you're probably not going to be around.
Yep.
So the thing I always look at and go, we have to be willing to adapt. We have to be willing to change. We have to be forward thinking, trying to get to a point where we're not sure we can maybe get to in a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yep.
But in 5 or 7 years, we can get there. So you really have to be forward thinking, and it takes a group like this to be able to do that, because you guys are dealing with what's going on in these fast changing environments already, and knowing where you guys want to go and where this environment's going, and we don't have time to research all that.
Totally.
That's why we look to great partners to do that. So it's super beneficial to me to know where we need to get to. It's hard to think that far out. It really is, as a business leader. When you're kind of stuck in a sales mind that I am.
You've got the day-to-day.
We want to drive the day-to-day. I have to remove myself, rely on my team.
Yep.
Right? I've hired people to do their job, and we want their skill set to run that. That, when you have those people in place, it allows you to remove it and start looking down the road further. So,
well, and from a risk management perspective, we talk a lot that we can build all the value, build a bigger business, whatever we want, and it can take one incident to destroy all of that if we don't have proper planning, right? And, the age-old industry thing is work in the business versus working on the business. And I do agree with that from a business owner perspective. I mean, we are business owners as well, and you do have to take that time, right, to work on the business. But I also think that time can be lessened significantly, or you can focus on your day-to-day more when you have the right partners that are thinking about your best interests, but also know where you want to get to. And I think that's oftentimes, I'd love your perspective on this, Andy, I think our industry misses that. We live so much in that 12-month cycle that we forget to ask the business owner, where are you going in 5 years? What's the company going to look like? And would you agree with that?
Right, 100%. That's just because, again, we're a victim of an industry that just thinks in those short-term cycles and is looking to
push. Which, again, if their business is going to change significantly, if you guys are looking to bring on, I don't know, whatever it may be, and all of a sudden that changes the risk profile significantly, we haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
But I would say that question comes up very frequently with you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, what's going on, whether you can tell me or not, what are things looking like in the next year, over these 12 months, beyond that. We talk about that a lot.
Yep.
So, I mean, those conversations are happening in our consultative environment. So, no, I mean, I get it. Everybody is looking at this annual perspective. They're thinking about renewals.
Yep.
It's always a renewal conversation.
What's my renewal going to look like?
I'd laugh at all the renewal emails I get of people reaching out. I'm like,
that's just gross.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just getting an email.
Yeah.
We see your renewals coming up.
Yeah.
I go, well.
Oh, I'm sure you could hit up on a lot.
Well, it is amazing, though, because there's just a lot of risk in not understanding the vision, the goals, the purpose, mission, whatever you want to say, in that partnership. Because even the short-term decisions that still have to be made, those aren't even going to be made right a lot of times if you don't know how to align it with more strategic things. I mean, we've talked about some of the lines in the sand. We've talked about, captive type risk on the P&C side. Well, those are long-term decisions, and they can make sense at certain times and not. But, we see all too often in our industry, even decisions like that are made, really short-sighted, and that can be a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it took us 3 years to get where we're going to go on that health side. No, it's a challenge. It really is from a leadership perspective. And I know you guys deal with it internally too.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're going to go at, and where you're going to be at the next 2, 3, 5, 7 years. But it's all applicable, and they're worthy conversations. And it's probably really how we got it started.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, this is where we're looking at going. And I was so concerned about trying to control those costs, even though our renewals were pretty good. It's just more than I ever wanted to see.
Yeah.
I go, if I can't help my people by getting a better cost, sharing the minimal cost, how are we going to still be here in 7 years?
Yeah.
Knowing where some of those renewals were at. So when you start talking 22 or 25%, you're like, wow, we can't do this over the next 5, 7 years.
Is revenue keeping up at 22-25% growth? I mean, that's especially when you're talking healthcare, that's probably the third highest expense on the on the profit loss. So anyways, I thought that was awesome. I think we got the signal from Big Al. We're up on time here, but Dave, thank you. That was a great perspective. I hope everybody listening, kind of took away the business owner perspective side of it, because I thought that was phenomenal, and hopefully took away some good stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the kind words, but for those that are listening or watching, it takes long. We've worked hard together to get to where we have the relationship we have today. Raleigh and I did before your time, and now Dave and I and the rest of the team and all of our team, and
it's a heck of a lot more fun.
It is more fun.
Plus, you get to drink some Coors Light.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good when it's the beer guys.
That's right. It's the silver bullet, right?
But yeah, thanks, Dave. That was
so. Everybody go out and buy a case of Coors Light.
Yeah, there you go.
Go load up
There's your weekend drink.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can't go wrong.
No, thanks for having me. Honestly, it's been an honor to be on this and have such great conversation. But glad I can share anything that I have from my seat and insights. But you know what? Anybody would be a fool not to engage you guys.
Oh, we appreciate that.
It has been such an amazing ride to know where I started to where we're at now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's a partnership, but you have to be willing to devote yourself to it. You really do. As a business leader, you have to devote yourself into it and get past the premium.
That's
to
right.
be honest.
Yeah.
It's just kind of awkward that I have to bring that up.
No,
You do. You have to be able to get past that and understand what's controlling all of it. And not that I'm all the way there. It's a continual conversation. I'm challenged every day with it. But it's amazing when you invest yourself into it, what you can get accomplished.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, absolutely. And I think, the podcast is both for advisors or insurance risk management folks in our industry, but also for business owners, because our belief is the change that we want to see in our industry from that salesperson product mentality that we've talked about to that advisory mentality that you've discussed. We've enjoyed that relationship. Isn't going to fully get there until the market dictates it, right? Until customers say, we want this, versus just selling us the insurance product. And so we do hope that we eventually gain, a lot of business owners like yourself that start to realize that and start to kind of ask for that different model. So I think that's why this perspective is huge. So appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I just hope people need to start now, not
Exactly.
tomorrow. They need to start now, because it takes time
There you go.
to really understand it and get themselves to a place where they're going to feel comfortable making the next stressful decision of, right, I'm all in to make this work. It's the risk reward.
Yep.
There you go. Couldn't
Cool.
agree more.
I agree.
All right.
Thanks.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Yep.
It sounds like they're empty.